I, um, I really appreciate you making the time in the middle of the day to come on here and be part of this webinar with us. I wanted to do this just to let you know, because of the circumstances, it's a different time, and unfortunately, instead of being in person, we'll just have to work through Zoom. And I wanted to do this webinar just to let you know that we're here for you and we're here to support you. I've been amazed as to how effective actually it has been to take care of dermatological care or skin issues through Zoom. But in addition to being available online to help you out, at least I go to the office 1 day a week on Tuesdays. And so if you need to come in, we're certainly available there as well. In the last few years, the scope of how I practice medicine has changed, and I really think a lot more about integrative medicine rather than just the allopathic type of medicine that I used to practice. And because of that, I think a lot about more integrated stuff, and also think about what else can affect you. And it's not just about giving you drugs anymore, at least in my perspective, but more of what else can we do really to take care of yourself. And that's why this webinar, I hope, will be helpful. And I wanted to present this to you and talk to you about this in terms of what can you do during this time to really take care of yourself. And so I would encourage you just to keep in touch with us through our website, through Instagram, and through Facebook. And if you need to make an appointment, I'll tell you this up front, and I'll mention it again in the end as well. And that is that you can call the office, you can email us, or you can text using the office number, 703-766-2220. So what's been the problem recently? Well, in light of what's been going on because of the coronavirus, there's a lot of stress right now, and everybody's experiencing the stress of isolation. And also not only stress of isolation, but also people eating unhealthy food. And I thought I'd probably talk about that, because lifestyle is probably even more important now than it's ever been, because it can affect your immune system and your ability to fight the virus. As far as the isolation is concerned, I've been amazed that when I go to the office, an appointment that could take 10 or 15 minutes can take half an hour. And what I've noticed that people really need to talk and they need to interact. And I really enjoy that. And I'm happy. I'm happy to be able to spend that time with people and try to help them out. And so let me just look at my outline. And so the stress not only affects, of course, your immune system, but also your skin, as we are, which is one of the main things we do right now. And we'll talk about it in terms of what you can do to take care of your skin. But really, the two are not separate. And that is that how you take care of your internal body, or how you take care of your immune system, also affect your skin. And so what I'm noticing with how people deal with the situation right now is that one is, of course, they're isolating themselves as we're instructed. Second is the news that's discouraging, and some people are glued to the news. And maybe a certain amount is helpful, because I think it is important to be informed. But I think beyond that, I think we got to be careful in terms of where we put our mind and attention. It was interesting to listen to one of the talk show hosts, and he was talking about the fact that how he's experienced anxiety and some discouragement. But what he was saying was that he puts his attention where he can make a difference. And I like the idea of putting your attention, because I think a lot of time when we're in a trance, when we're affected, at that point, we don't really think about the fact that that I can actually change my perspective or put my attention on a place where I can make a difference. And that's really what I've done. And for those of you who know me closely, I really do what I can to make a difference in the lives of other people. And I feel that this is my duty and my responsibility. And I've had people who have made a difference in my life. I don't think I would be where I am today. Somebody who came from Afghanistan many years ago and didn't have anything at all. And there were people that I didn't know at all, strangers that made a difference in my life. And that has made a difference for me in my perspective and how I approach other people and what I can do to make a difference. So I think the other thing that was interesting was to notice is that how people are eating comfort foods, in eating a lot more carbs, pasta, mac and cheese, casserole, and alcohol consumption has increased. And it's very interesting that ABC Store is now considered an essential business. I'm not sure, but I don't drink alcohol anyway, but just, I think it's important to be aware of that, because all of these actually can create more unhealthy lifestyle, increase acidity in your system, and will affect your immune system. I think, and then along with that is, as people are staying indoors, their level of vitamin D is less, what I would encourage you is to maybe take more vitamin D during that time, more vitamin C as well. And not that sun exposure has anything with vitamin C, but vitamin C has to do with helping your immune system. The other thing that I can maybe suggest to you during this time, which I would encourage you actually to go out, but just be careful in terms of where you walk, avoiding other people. I think that is important, unfortunately. And then having a safe distance. And then the other is that even when you're outside, you're really not safe. If you don't really take enough distance from other people. So I would encourage you to go outside. And that's what I do for my own sanity, because I think if you don't take care of your mind and your body, it will affect your immune system. And the current lifestyle that we're in right now leads to a lot of inflammation, which causes many health issues. And it increases the amount of cortisol in your system, which can affect your system. And I've seen a lot of different effects from the effects of stress, which really, when you look at allopathic medicine, a lot of time, they really don't look at it. A lot of time they say, oh yeah, these are really not related. That's really not true. I've seen from hives to eczema getting worse, or even acne. And in fact, if you went to a functional medicine doctor who really look at the entire body and they don't just treat one aspect of it, they will ask you a question that when did this actually start and what was really going on in your environment at that time or in your life. And a lot of time it's the stressful factors that can predispose people to having acne issues, and a lot of time also lead to gut issues at the same time. So just really being aware of it, and there are a lot really you can do to take care of that or take control of that. Stress don't just happen. I think it's not only just what happens in the environment, but then the question is, what do you do about it? And so stress it can cause inflammation, and that leads to lower immune system and and also other things that can cause is it increases the amount of aging, because it will cause the breakdown of collagen. It can cause cardiovascular disease, as you know. And the other thing that it can also cause is hypersensitivity reaction, which I talked about, hives, but it can also cause all kinds of rashes. It can cause puffiness under the eyes. Extreme dryness of the skin. It can lead to even pigmentation, lines and wrinkles. And then mentally, as you know, it can cause depression and other psychological issues. So all of this really, inflammation is at the heart of a lot of things. And inflammation can also cause mental fog. And so anything you can do to really reduce that can make a big difference. And one of them is really just moving outside and moving around. And as I mentioned earlier, that inflammation leads to decreased immune system, and that can make you more prone to coronavirus. So, which, one is how your skin is affected, but just know that really the two are really intertwined. You cannot separate one from the other. So this is really the time of extreme care. And so, in full disclosure, I've really taken care of myself a lot more than ever before, because I used to eat out a lot and not anymore. And so every meal is at home right now. And in fact, I've really been thinking about how to be more creative to make food that's more healthy. So what are some of the things you really can do in addition to some of the things I mentioned? Well, exercise and nutrition. The gym, I know the gym is closed, but there are so many opportunities available at home. And one of the people that I like that I exercise with every morning, and it's all free on YouTube, is Patricia Marino. The things I like about her is she's very motivational. She's not only helping you work out, but she also has these phrases that you can say also to lift up your spirit. So that really can make a big difference. Drink plenty of water. And a strategy that might help you is to fill up a jug with water that you're supposed to consume and make sure by the end of the day it's gone. And that was a strategy that I used to use in my office. But if you're relying on drinking water whenever you get a chance or when you're thirsty, I don't think that's going to happen. So I would suggest that drink enough water. And that for me, well, it's how much is enough water? It's really half of your weight in ounces. So that would be considered enough water. Choose food that decrease inflammation, and in green vegetable, primarily plant-based food reduces inflammation. And there's just a lot of information, and a good person to follow would be Dr. Andrew Weil, W-E-I-L, who is the Doctor of Integrative Medicine at the University of Arizona. You can follow his guide, an anti-inflammatory diet. But really, the information is out there. I think for me, I just hope to remind you in terms of what you really need to do, as it is also a reminder for me. So I appreciate having a chance to share this with you, because it also makes me think about these things on a deeper level. Get enough essential fatty acids, and that is that when I say essential fatty acids, primarily fish oil. So just make sure you take the fish oil tablets. Eating salmon, mackerel, those are some of the fatty fishes. Mackerel is a little hard to eat because it smells a lot, but salmon is much easier to eat. And then take daily multivitamins and mineral supplements. Vitamin C is one of the most common ones. And the other for coronavirus, it's not antioxidant, but zinc is one of the ones to really take on regular basis. Getting enough sleep. Hopefully you're getting more sleep now than before because you're going to be home. But also know that stress can affect you and keep you up at night. Let's see, and then the other is walk, and you need to really go for a walk and meditation and yoga. Those are really practices that, so moving your body in the morning. I think the thing I like about Patricia Marino, so the first name Patricia, the last name is M-O-R-E-N-O, and so that so the exercise that I really like about her is it's really total body exercise. I'm moving joints in my shoulders in a way that I hadn't moved before. And that it really, I can honestly say that I have a more sense of well-being, and my aches and pains have gone away. And I think it was all because although I was exercising, playing tennis primarily, there are only a few movements that I was making, and that wasn't really enough. With this, actually, I can actually feel that it is really total body exercise. So that is helpful, and that doesn't have to be that, but you can do any of the exercises. And so in terms of skin health and aging, I would suggest to avoid excessive soaps and skin irritants. And then the other thing to be aware of during this time, people are washing their hands a lot. And it was 2 weeks ago, I had one of my patients tell me that she had hand eczema, and I had given her some steroid cream. And she says, despite all of that, her eczema got worse. And her perception was that, of course, it was the wrong treatment. I don't think it was the wrong treatment. And so I had to go through what was really going on. Excessive hand washing. And I know it's needed, so I'm not saying she shouldn't have been doing that. But we had to look at as to why that was getting worse. So she needed to the cream that I gave her, to use it a little more frequently. But the other thing was also to moisturize as much as possible. And then and that is actually challenging because taking the time during the day, and she was working from home and she was very busy. So, but overall, just avoid excessive soaps and skin irritants. Now, the other thing is that when I say excessive soaps, I think what I would encourage you is to maybe use more organic. That really is not as harsh on the skin, but also it doesn't have as many chemicals. I switched to organics years ago, and I really think it has made a difference. When you go out, This is a tough one, I say, because I do suggest they use sunscreen. However, a certain amount of sun exposure is really important. I think the time it's not good is when you actually burn. So if you're fair skinned, then I think it is important to use a sunblock. And you don't need a whole lot of it. You need SPF 15 to 30, but no more than that. But you do need a certain amount of sun exposure. I think early in the morning and later in the day, I think that would be really important because it has a lot to do with your well-being. And so one of the recommendations that I give to my patients now compared to before is get plenty of sun exposure during the time when ultraviolet radiation is low. When is that? Early in the morning and later in the day. There is actually an app that you can use. It's called Willy Weather, WILLY Weather. I'm sure there are a lot of apps, but that's the one I really like because it straight away gives you the UV, the level of UV radiation, and it tells you whether it's low or high. And so according to that, you can go out and be sure that you will be okay if the UV radiation is low. So I would suggest that, go outside, use sunblock, but you really do need to get outside the house. And again, you wear a mask in public. I think that's really important because I read an article recently. There was actually a study done where it showed that if you walk behind somebody, because we cough and as we breathe, you can actually, if somebody's affected by coronavirus, they could be spewing out viruses and you can be affected. And in that case, it's not only 6 feet, it's really much further distance that you really need to be away from them. But mask is really important to be wearing a mask even in public. And I guess the other thing I would say is read your product labels and avoid things that have parabens and sulfates and other chemicals. Excuse me. A great website where you can find this information as what to avoid, and even they actually have an app, is the EWG website, and it's Environmental Working Group, EWG. Incidentally, because of becoming aware of the effects of all the chemicals and how it affects our health, last year, we actually switched over to all organic products. And we just launched our organic products. And if you like, you're certainly welcome to either come by the office or we could probably even arrange an online consultation if need be, or even send it to you. But the point of all of this is just to avoid some of these chemicals that actually can affect your health and wellness. And that was the reason we switched over. I think it's been probably 3 to 5 years right now where I've really switched over to a lot cleaner lifestyle, eating organic, avoiding all the chemicals, just because it really does affect us. And the last one, which is, this can affect you more than anything else, is that emotional connection. I remember from medical school reading a book that was called The House of God, and some of you might be familiar with it. In The House of God, one of the things the author said was that connection heals, isolation is deadly. And so for our well-being, connection is so important. At this point, I know in-person connection might be difficult. And what I do with some of my friends, and these are on regular basis, we hang out, and all of us have been very committed to not going outside and being careful and go for walks. But even then, we maintain a safe distance from each other and don't really invite each other to each other's home, unfortunately. But just really, so virtual connection can become important, that FaceTime. And I think the other thing, I would challenge you to think about how you can deepen those connections right now, because it's not how long you spend with somebody, but how you really connect. TED Talks had, I think it was TED Connections is what it's called. They had a TED Talk in terms of how to deepen connection. And so you might want to consider looking at that in terms of how to deepen connection or have more connections during that time, this time. So again, using FaceTime, Zoom, which is what we're using right now, as you know. And then the other thing I think for emotional connection or emotional well-being that is really important is self-care. And the self-care, we talked a lot already about, physically taking care of yourself, which is drinking enough water and nutrition. But the other thing is rituals. If there's one thing that can make a huge difference in how you start your day and then can affect the rest of your day, and maybe even give you more energy for the rest of the days, it's how it's what your rituals really are in the morning. And there is a ton of them available out there. And there is one here that I have on my desk that is by Tim Ferriss. So his name is Tim Ferriss, and let me see, this is his name right here at the bottom, Tim Ferriss. So this is just one, and he says, morning rituals that help me win the day. Morning rituals that help me win the day. And this is just an example. You don't have to do it that way, but I'll give you some examples. So when you wake up in the morning, how do you wake up? Do you go on Facebook Live? What do you do? So, but the idea is this, really, to reserve the first hour really for yourself. And so that means maybe going for walks. That means exercising. So I wake up at 6 o'clock, for example. For me, at 6 o'clock, by 6:10 or 6:15, I start doing my exercises. And you don't have to do it for very long, 10, 15 minutes of cardio. And then I do a little bit of yoga and then end up with meditation or even deep breathing. When it comes to deep breathing, deep breathing, I think, is even more important now than it's been before, because you really want to oxygenate your lungs. And I've seen some videos, actually, they talk about in terms of how to, or maybe even how to actually take some deep breaths, and in what ways that can actually help you and protect you from coronavirus. And then there was another guy who actually did get a coronavirus, and what he was told by one of his doctors to really don't lie down and make sure you're upright and just take some deep breaths, things that really hurt, things that you don't like doing at that time. So if you're in the habit of deep breathing, I think that would help you a lot. The sources to go to, there is a guy by the name of Wim Hof, WIMHOFF. And so if you go to YouTube, he's got a 10-minute deep breathing. And that, I think, parallels what some of the other breathing methods that I came across. But just really simply, the way to do it is you do 6 cycles of deep breathing. Then you just cough, and you do another 6 minutes. And then finally, what you do is you lie on your stomach and deep and breathe for 10 minutes. Now, that's not Wim Hof. That was recommended by somebody else who suggested that in order to protect yourself from coronavirus and increase your capacity to fight it, then inflate your lungs. So that would be one way to do that. Is you take 6 deep breaths, and you cough, and you do another 6. You take another 6 breaths, and you cough, and then you lie on your stomach for 10 minutes and breathe. Now, here's the kicker on all of this. If you leave it to chance or think about that you're going to do it during the day, you might as well just know that you're not going to do it. So what I would suggest is that if you create this as part of your ritual, and that is you do it early in the morning, you get all of that out of the way, and then you get to work, then I think you'll be able to do it. And then the other thing too is, because we're all working from home these days, is just make sure to schedule time during the day to move around. And I say a schedule because I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe there are people that are very disciplined. I'm not one of them. I have to schedule my day, and I have to have these breaks. If you're taking 1 hour for lunch, maybe take 1 hour for lunch. Just a suggestion. I think most of you are probably much better in time management than I am. But for me, I constantly struggle with time management. That's why I believe being a physician is the right profession for me, because I can't sit in front of a desk and work. So being in the office was really the right profession to be moving around. And so, and then the other thing that I think is important to address is that initially we closed our office, but then the more information that I found out, the more I realized that actually I can't protect myself from coronavirus based on the information. And the way I do that is, I go in the office, really, there is some exposure, but if I wear a mask and don't touch my face and wash my hands, and when I leave the office, just make sure I clean my hands, use alcohol, which is pretty effective, then I think I'm fine. And that's why I'm really not worried about it. So that has enabled me to offer a service. And so I think that's really all in terms of information, and happy to answer questions. But I just want to finish with the following, which is we are scheduling appointments online. And if it's urgent, you're welcome to come in. I will be there on Tuesday. And right now we are seeing patients, or I'm seeing patients from 12 to about 3 o'clock. But we're happy to extend that time as there's more need that arises. And it seems like at this point, there's been a need, at least online. So my physician assistants are extending their hours to accommodate the need. But don't hesitate. I think it could be just as effective as in person. I guess the other thing I want to say is this, and I did this with somebody a couple of days ago. She called and I offered her a free dermatological visit. And I know this is the time people are struggling with just not being financially struggling. So we're happy to provide free appointments, free consultations, whatever you need. We'll call in a prescription for you. So that's as a service to you. It's my time. I'm more than happy to offer that. So if you know of somebody, or you're struggling, or you're furloughed and you can't afford that, please let me know, and just let Colleen know. Really, we're not going to be asking a lot of questions. We just want to offer the service, and because I think this is the time of service, and I think all of us really need to take care of one another. And I do my part by doing this, but also thankfully I've been fortunate that being able to give to other people, and I've always done that. And there's more need now than ever before, not only locally what I can do, but also for some of the, even remote areas like Afghanistan, where people don't have the stimulus package. And I don't look at it whether these are Americans, these are Afghans, or these are people that I came from, but I look at it as humanity affected by all of this. And I think if we think jointly, or think that we're interconnected and we're not isolated from one another, it really can create that sense of connection, creates happiness, it creates emotional well-being. People suffer when they think that we're isolated or we're disconnected from one another. And if you don't believe me, just tune into what your heart really tells you. And so I'm more than happy to offer that to you in the spirit of just serving the community and serving you who've been part of the practice. And if there's anybody else that needs help, let me know. So as far as the appointments, we're already booking for June now. So call if you'd like to schedule appointments. But if it's an urgent appointment, if you feel the need to come in, please know that we're there for you and we'll accommodate you. Let me see, is there anything else on the list? Let me know if there are topics of interest that we can do this on a regular basis. This is our first one. If there are more topics that you would like me to talk about, happy to discuss that. And the other thing too is I hope that this has created a sense of connection for you as well, because one of the things that's been important for me is that actually has made my career more fulfilling is a sense of connection with my patients, and just know that we're here to serve you. So with that, I'm going to see if there are any questions, and if not, I wish you a great day, and please let me know if there are topics that you would like to hear about in the future. Okay, so it seems like there aren't any questions. I would love your feedback regardless. You have our email, and if you don't mind, just email us. Let me just see, is there anything else here? Okay, so yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. So I just got a comment that was helpful. I hope it is, because that's really why I do this. And sometimes, there could be too much information to overwhelm people, but I want to give you just a little bit. And if you did these things, some of the things that I hope it will help you. And if nothing else, that emotionally supports you. And so I think it may seem like a lot, but honestly, what I found out is that it's not the amount of information, it's what you do with it and how much of it you really implement. So speed of implementation is more important than really the amount of information. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming by. I really appreciate you being part of the practice, and let us know how we can serve you and how we can take care of you. So have a great afternoon, and look forward to being in touch, and please give us your comments, your feedback.